Hey, what's going on, guys? Happy Motivational Monday. Today, I wanted to talk to you guys about coaches and mentors. I think it's a very crucial part in your journey to have someone that can guide you and talk to you through the steps that you need to when you're in troubled times, or keeping someone to keep you accountable. And people like here, we have Tom Sylvester. He's one of the best coaches in the area to talk to you guys about entrepreneur coaching. We're going to talk a little bit about that in depth today. And Tom, nice to meet you. And you want to tell us about yourself?
Absolutely. So first off, thanks for having me on here. The people I've had around me, around my life, coaches, mentors have really been the difference between helping me succeed versus helping failing. So I'm so excited to talk about this topic today.
Awesome.
Yeah. So a very quick background for me. I actually never planned on being a coach. My wife and I met the first day of college, and as we graduated, I had a degree in computer science. I was like looking ahead at the job market and what the future held for me, and I didn't like what I saw. It was 45 years of working in a cubicle, and it just wasn't what I had planned. It wasn't the life that I wanted for us. And so I did something that my wife will tell you was crazy, which was to set a goal to retire by 35. And then essentially we set out to figure out how to make that happen. And over that journey, we had a lot of successes, a lot of failures. One of my biggest challenges was actually trying to figure out how to start a business so that we could achieve that goal. And I ended up spending about $7,500 on a quote unquote advanced real estate training to help me with real estate investing. And I did that on like a high interest credit card. I did it without telling my wife. So pretty much everything you shouldn't do is what I did when I hired my first coach.
You can mess up and you can still come back from it, is what you're saying.
Absolutely. And to be honest, if you look at any successful person out there, and if you dive into their background, they screwed up, they messed up, they had failures all along the way. And really the only difference between the successful people and the non-successful people, the successful people kept going, and they didn't let one or two failures stop them from achieving that success.
Awesome. And your marriage, I'm assuming, has played a giant role in that success with everything that you're having.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I didn't mention was when I spent that money, it was about 9 months before we got married. And so when I told my wife what I did, she was already against any of this business stuff anyways. We really had to sit down and have a heart to heart and be like, hey, we're about to spend the rest of our lives together. We got to be on the same page with what the future looks like. And so that was really the starting point for us working together and figuring out what we wanted our lives to look like and putting processes in place and kind of figuring out what each of our roles were to make that a reality. And so over the years, we've ended up building multiple successful businesses. We were both able to leave our jobs, and we've been able to then now pay it forward and help other people, where it's really about what do you want out of life? Where are you at today? Building a roadmap to help you get there, and then really asking what support or guidance do I need along the way to grow to be the person I need to be to achieve the next level of success that I'm looking for.
So you didn't know you wanted to be a coach, right? And so how did you even come into that world of being a coach, or how did you find your coaches moving into this world?
Yeah, well, so our first business was real estate investing. And so after I spent all that money, it was like, well, I can either kind of give up, go back to a day job and give up on the dream, or I can go figure out how to make this happen. And that's what I did. And so we had built that business. We actually built a retail wine and liquor store. We had several like failed businesses along the way. But when I shifted into business consulting, I was working with these Fortune 500 companies. I was actually pulled away from my family. So I was away 4 or 5 days a week. And as we started having kids, my wife and I were talking, and we're like, this isn't what we want our life to look like. So once again, we made a change. And so when I left that like well-paying consulting job, we actually had people start reaching out to us and saying like, hey, you guys have been able to retire young. You've been able to build multiple businesses. And I see that you guys are like having more freedom than you've ever had before. Can you help me do the same thing? And so we took on a couple clients at first, and then we had more and more people asking, and we're like, we've got to get this out to a bigger amount of people. So we started a blog, we started a podcast, we started putting online courses together. And then we actually this year have a book coming out, really just to get the message out to more and more people on you can do what you want, you can achieve what you want out of life. And here's some of the steps and processes we've learned along the way to make that a reality.
Awesome. So when people are looking at a coach through you, like what type of people would be your ideal client?
Yeah. So for us, it is people that are really looking to build a life of freedom where they can choose what they want to do, when they want to do it, with who they want to do it. And they're looking at entrepreneurship or building a business as the way to do that. And you asked earlier, like, how do you find a coach? One of the first things I tell people is, get clear on what you're looking for, what outcome you're looking for, because a coach is somebody that may or may not actually have achieved the outcome, but they're really good at helping other people do that. And so an example, if people watch sports, like I'm a Buffalo Bills fan for football. The New England Patriots are like our, ultimate enemy. But Bill Belichick has never done a lot of what his players have. But right, he's been able to coach that team to just amazing results. So he's a really good coach, but he couldn't go out and do Tom Brady's role, right? But he's able to help Tom Brady and the rest of the team really achieve success. So if you know what you're trying to achieve, you're then going to go and look for somebody that, one, is a good fit for you and has been able to help other people in similar circumstances achieve the outcome that you're looking for.
Awesome. Yeah, because like had mentioned before, is there's different coaches and different people in your life for different areas, right? Like you might not go to the same coach for marriage advice as you would for business advice. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things we always tell people is like, build this support network and you're going to have multiple levels of support. So for example, people often get confused on what's the difference between a coach and a mentor. And a mentor is usually somebody that has done what you are trying to do. Usually they're a lot older and they're more telling you what to do and taking you down that path. Where a coach may or may not have done what you want to do, but they're really good at helping you to get clear on what you're trying to achieve and then support you in becoming the person that's required to make that a reality. Then there's also, there's a whole bunch of different roles, but there's like therapists. So therapists help you work on some of the things that might be holding you back, some of the, background, childhood stuff, that type of thing. So like for us, we have mentors, coaches, therapists. Like my wife and I go to a marriage therapist, and a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, is there something wrong? And it's like, well, no, but the way we see it is if you want like the things that are important in your life, you need to invest into. So our marriage is really important. So we invest into a marriage therapist. Growing our business is important. So we invest in business coaches. And then having a mentor to help us challenge us and achieve higher levels of success is critical. So we have mentors. So really what it comes down to is figuring out what support you need in your current situation to get to where you want to be, and then finding the right person to make that work for you.
Yeah, and I think people don't realize of how important for accountability purposes a coach can be, right? Like when you think of like Michael Jordan, like he didn't just go and play basketball every day. He had someone watching his technique and he was teachable. That's something that I think is huge when it comes to sports or anything else that you're trying to be raised by a mentor or a coach, is that you need to take it all heart for heart. If you're not teachable, they're like, yeah, I'm teachable. I'm doing somewhat of what they said. It's like, no, do exactly what they say and then try and see if that works. And if it doesn't work, then you can try your own thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I have a, personal experience with this. When I bought the training course and then I ended up going out and investing in real estate. Really, the course didn't help, but it motivated me to go out and do it on my own. I then started to get a little bit of an ego about me. And the ego wasn't like, I'm great. The ego was like, well, I've had success. So won't I look stupid if I go and ask for help now? And so that held me back for years because I felt like I had to do everything on my own. And it was once I had a mentor that basically said, like, Tom, this is not about you. Like, get your ego out of the way and you'll be able to be more successful. It was a hard, like, truth, but really what he was saying was be teachable, be coachable, and realize that regardless of what level of success you hit, there's more success beyond that. And you need to surround yourself with the people that will not only challenge you, but also hold you accountable, to your point, to do the things you need to do to get to where you want to be.
Yeah, and that's uncomfortable, right? Like the truth can
Very much.
it can hurt, it could sting, it can, but you're building that muscle, you're building that those techniques and things that you couldn't do on your own. That's why you hired that coach. So you need to be ready to be doing those jumping jacks of do the cold calling if it's business. You need to be willing to face your fears of your past and your shadows with your relationship. I think when people dive into a coach, they're like, I didn't get anything out of it. It didn't work for me. Well, did you actually apply, and were you ready? Was it the right time in your life to take on that coach? It might not.
That last thing you said was so critical, because whenever you're in a coaching relationship, it is a relationship. And that means that the coach has to bring certain things to the table and you have to bring certain things to the table. And even like on the calls or when you're in person with that person, that's not really where the magic happens. The magic happens in between your coaching sessions where you actually go and do the work. You get comfortable being uncomfortable and you do it anyways, right? So oftentimes when it doesn't work, it's because you weren't ready, you didn't find the right person for you, or you weren't taking action to actually get the results you're looking for.
Right. And I think, like you said earlier, you set goals for yourself, right? And I think that's one thing I talked about in my previous videos is setting goals is so crucial, and goals that don't even seem achievable, but you set that level, that standard so high that it looks almost like you couldn't even reach it. But having it there makes you take more action, right? And having a coach to get you to those goals is so huge.
Yeah, well, and what we like to do with people, because so our company, our brand is called Lifestyle Builders, and it kind of morphed over time. But what we found was that a lot of people were setting business goals and they would build a successful business, but they would lose their life along the way because there's this mentality of like hustle, hustle, hustle. And then when I'm successful, then I'll like work on my marriage, or then I'll like be a good father. And what we found was that people were actually ruining their life because of business. So what we do with people now is we say, well, let's first figure out what you want out of life. And you want to set that really big vision, but then you want to build a roadmap from where you're at now to where you want to be. And the goals are the steps along that roadmap that get you to that big picture vision. So when you first do that in your life, now you can say, what does the business have to look like to allow that to happen in my life? So you're going to set life and business goals, but you're very intentional about making sure that the business actually helps you build the life that you want.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think those goals can change, right? Like over time, you might not realize that that's actually what you wanted in your life. And I think people get afraid that, oh, I have the wrong coach. It's not achieving the right goals. But that coach is changeable, right? I mean, you can change your goals and refine it with that person.
Absolutely. And this is one of the things we always talk about. It's like GPS. With GPS, it's like, well, where do you want to go? The destination. Where are you at today? And then GPS draws you a line or a path or a roadmap. Mm-hmm. But the key thing about, like, you can do all of what I just said with a map. But the difference with GPS is it's constantly checking in. Mm-hmm. And when you're off, it says rerouting. And so what we do with goals is every 90 days, we have people check in on their goals. And you say, all right, last 90 days, what went well, what didn't go well? And then based on that, looking forward, what do we need to change or adjust? Because you're going to constantly figure out that maybe the original goal wasn't the goal, or maybe the tactic you tried to use didn't work and you got to try something else. But when you're consistently setting the goals, going out and executing, and then reflecting and adjusting, and then doing that pattern over and over again, that is what helps you ultimately achieve success and go through the failure.
Yeah, I love that. I love that analogy with the traffic and GPS, because like traffic can come, right? And then it says, save 5 minutes to avoid this. So you might have had a path that looked just right, and then all of a sudden traffic happens. It actually gets easier, quicker, something comes around that you can actually utilize to your benefit. And what, like you said, reflecting on things, what I call to my company is called an after action review.
Yes.
Let's basically look at what happened and how can we learn from this and how can we make it better? And what did we grow from this? Like, even if it wasn't towards our original destination, reviewing what happened and getting better at that area really can help benefit you and the people around you of how you can manage that, right?
So, absolutely. Yeah. And the way you said it, like, we always focus on three things: mm-hmm. strategy, big picture, where do you want to go? Execution, the work you got to do to make that happen. And most people miss the last one, which is optimization. Do that after action report, learn from those lessons, and then apply those as you go forward. Because if you're not doing the after action report, you can keep making the same mistake over and over again. you're not realizing it and you're not moving any closer to your goal. And you're actually moving further away because you're spending time, money, resources, energy, and you're not seeing success. So you're getting demotivated.
So is there a common theme that you've seen over the years of coaching of what happens for people when they fall off to kind of have like a red flag to you of like how to get out of that rut?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing with falling off is usually like disconnecting. So it's either, not showing up for like your coaching sessions, it's not doing the work in between sessions. And usually that comes back to, a mindset challenge. It could be fear. It could be fear of failing. It could be fear of success. So from a coach's perspective, it needs to be looking out for that. But if you're in a coaching relationship, one of the most important things is finding the right coach, because you need, like, I always tell clients, I'm like, look, when you hire me, I'm going to be your best friend some days, and I'm going to be your worst enemy other ones, because you hired me to get you to that goal. And what's in the way is you and your mindset. So there's going to be days where I'm your biggest cheerleader and I'm telling you, like, you got this. You may not see it, but you know it. And there's going to be other days where you didn't do the stuff you need to, or you need to hear some tough love. And I'm giving you that tough love because without it, you're not going to be able to overcome some of these challenges. So it's like, there's a path, and if you're not moving forward and you're kind of feeling stagnant, that's a sign that like there's something holding you back, and a good coach will help explore and help you gain clarity and awareness on what is it that's in my way, what fear do I have, what's holding me back, and then help work through that so that you can proceed forward.
So out of your biggest successes that you've had with your clients, it's the people who went all in, listen to every word you said, put in the work, put in the time, put in the energy, and set those high goals and actually ended up reaching them in a time frame?
Yeah, absolutely. And the way we measure it, like, I have whenever I work with clients, we do like a weekly check-in usually. And one thing I'll have is I'm like, rate the past week. And what I'm looking for is like really high ratings, right? Because at the end of the day, achieving your goals should ultimately be making you happy. And if it's not making you happy, we got to dive in, and there's something deeper with that. So that's why, like, you always hear people say, like, start with why. If you have a really strong drive as to what you want to achieve and why you want to achieve it, then we'll work backwards to figure out the how. But if you're not really strong and committed to not only what you want to achieve, but the process and the growth required to get there, you're not going to be able to appreciate the journey. Like you've heard, it's not about the mountaintop, but it's about the climb and the journey to get there. What people have to do is to commit to the process. And as part of the process, there's going to be like really good days and like, you're making money or you hit a big goal. Great. But part of the process and committing to it is also knowing that there's going to be really crappy days, and knowing that every time you have one of those crappy days and you overcome it, you grow, you become a better person, you become more resilient, and that's going to help you get to the goals.
Yeah, well, one of my biggest observations of people is that hill that you're talking about, that mountaintop, it's not big enough. So they set up like a little tiny mountain. I'm going to read a book a week, or something really small to whatever for most people, and they hit it and they don't feel fulfilled because it wasn't big enough for them. It was something that was so minuscule. They have to set something that's much bigger than themselves so that they work towards climbing that mountain and have the adventure.
Yeah, what I found, because there's proponents on both sides. Like some people say like shoot for the moon, and if you miss, you'll land above stars. There's other people that are like set small goals so you can achieve them. What I found to be like the secret sauce is like your vision. I want your vision, the long-term thing, to be larger than life. You're never actually going to achieve that, but you keep striving. But when you set goals, the magic point I found is when they're just outside your comfort level. So when I'm setting goals with people, like let's say it's a financial goal, I'll be like, hey, if you want to hit $10,000 a month, like, does that seem achievable? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, what about 20,000? They're like, yeah. I'm like, what about 50,000? They're like, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, that's the good amount then, because you've got to work and you've got to grow to get there. So it's going to keep you motivated. You're going to get that growth coming out of it. And it's not too far away where like from week one, you're so far away that you're going to be demotivated. So it's not a science or anything, but when you can find that point, that usually helps people really succeed with goal setting and then ultimately achieving it.
And that's what you're doing as a coach. You're pushing them. You see in their facial expressions what's uncomfortable, right? They're like 20,000, they're like, oh, it's easy. Like you push them to push it a little bit further. So when you're doing your weekly check-ins, are you checking in on their results of what they have going on and emotional support? So it's a combination of the two.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, that's a key thing with coaches. Your coach, especially early on, should be asking a lot more questions rather than telling you. Because the biggest thing a coach can do is help you get clarity on where you want to go, what's in the way, what you need next. But yeah, what we do weekly is we'll set like a 90-day goal, for example. And then we put a scorecard in place and we have actions every week. And we use that scorecard to help us gauge what's working, what's not, and where's the problem, the next problem we got to solve. So by reviewing that on a weekly basis, it basically gives us a path. It's kind of like updating the GPS. We said a week from here or 10 minutes from here, we should be at this point, but we're actually somewhere else. Now we know there's a disconnect and we can say, well, what do we got to do? Do we change the path or do we got to change the tactic and strategy we use to get back on the path?
Awesome. Yeah, it's a great roadmap for people. And I think your techniques and your book, is that going to go in depth about how they can utilize that roadmap? What's your
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So the way we look at things is we always tell people, we're like, we give you all of our information, all of our strategies. We give it all away for free because, to your point, most people won't take that information and do it on their own.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do, awesome. Spend $20 on the book, like listen to the podcast, and you're hitting the ground running.
Yeah.
But what most people need is the support and accountability to go through. So with the book, just as a quick recap, the first thing we do is help you figure out what you want out of life. Then we help you figure out your personal finances, because if you can't manage your own time and money, you're going to struggle to do it in the business. Then we help you test and validate your business idea so you start making sales. You get the right solution for the right market you're serving. Then we help you set the business up, set systems and teams in place so that as the business grows, it doesn't take more and more of your time. The business is actually running and you're able to step back and run it. And then we ultimately take people through how do you transition from an employee to an entrepreneur, because there's a lot of mindset shifts. There's a lot of routines and habits you have to put in place when suddenly you don't have a boss every day. Or if you're working from home, like you're not going to another location, you've got to do some things to make sure that you're actually productive and still doing what you need to do.
That's awesome. It seems like your wife and yourself have set up literally the blueprint setup of exactly where you need to get from point A to B, and you've done it. You're not a person coaching saying, hey, I think this will work. Hey, I read this in 20 different books. You're the ones that are saying like, hey, we've accomplished this for ourselves. Let us show you and pay it forward. I think that's what a lot of people need to recognize when hiring a coach, is that if you want that coach that has done it, that they need to do their research and they do need to read the books and read the content. And once they do that, they're going to realize, oh, I need the guy. I need the guy behind this, keeping me accountable and giving me those tips on a regular basis. Because you read it, you process it, but it doesn't stay with you on a day-to-day, right? Unless you're reading it every day.
Absolutely.
Accountability.
Yeah, well, and to your point, like we always tell people, listen, there's a lot of companies out there that can have really slick marketing. When I bought the $7,500 course, it was because I went to a free 2-hour event, then a $500 3-day event. And then the 3-day event was really just a whole sales psychology process to set you up to spend more money. Now, none of that is bad as long as they can deliver on the back end. This company was a lot more marketing, caring a lot less about customers. So you as a customer, when you're looking for a coach or really anybody, you need to own the due diligence. You need to follow this company. You need to interact with them. And like, especially online, go look at their YouTube channel, go look at their podcast, get to know their philosophy, who they are, see what results they've gotten for other people. Like, it's on you to do the due diligence to find the right coach for you, and realize that just because somebody has slick marketing or a nice website doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be able to deliver. So you want to double check and make sure that other people that are similar to you have had really good results with that person.
I love that. And that goes into business, life, like any relationship you have, doing your due diligence, right? That's like a huge key takeaway from this conversation. I don't think people are willing to do the research. They say, hey, I need a coach. Hey, this guy, I know this guy, Tom, over, he's helped a few people. Let me just jump on with him. Like, check, I would say, how many coaches would you say you looked at before choosing who you worked with?
Now it's a lot. And usually what I'll do before I hire somebody in is I've been following them for a while. I'm listening to their podcast. I've usually had multiple phone calls with them so that by the time I'm ready, I'm picking somebody that I know has a track record and isn't, just like a one and done, or, they truly care about customers. And I always tell people, I'm like, look, anytime you're hiring any position, you want to talk to at least 3 people, because what that's going to allow you to do is to understand the differences, as well as understand the difference in pricing, the different in approach. And you're going to start to be able to say, I really like this about this person. I didn't like this. So you're going to be able to better hone in what criteria is important for you.
Awesome. All right. So I like to finish up the conversation with a little bit of a quote. What's your favorite quote that really stuck with you throughout your journey and something that resonates with you?
Yeah. One of the ones that, actually, I'm going to give you 3. I know you asked for one. I have 3 quotes above my 3 monitors. The first one is embrace the suck. And this comes from the military. And it basically says, look, to get to that destination, it's going to suck, but you got to embrace that, because if you embrace that, you'll get to where you need to go. The second one actually comes from Disney, and it's keep moving forward. Regardless of what happens, you just need to keep moving forward. That's what's going to help you succeed. And the third one kind of goes back to that ego thing. And it's, people need you. It's not about you, but realize that there are people out there that need what you have to offer. And you're actually being selfish by not doing the things you need to do to be able to help those people.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Tom. The people here are really thankful for all the techniques and things you've been helped them with finding the right coach. And if you want to find out more about Tom, I'll leave it in the description box below. Once his book comes out, we'll put that in the link below as well. And we appreciate you having on the show, and we hope you guys have a great week.
Hey guys, I really hope you liked this video. I have a lot more coming your way, a lot more motivation and tips. So if you can just like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends and family, I would really appreciate it. Any comments or questions you might have, please leave them in the box below, and I look forward to seeing you next week.